अरे वो मेरे आगे आएगा
मेरा बाकी बस हट जाओ मत क्लिक करें
तो उसके तो मेरे फिल्म में आएगा फिर मेरे फिल्म में आएगा
साइलेंस
ओके आप पीछे दादा थोड़ा पीछे होना है हाँ बस
थोड़ा आगे दे कम क्लोज
सबसे पहले तो ये बता दीजिए कि फेस्टिवल एक मतलब फिल्मों से जुड़े हुए लोगों के लिए फेस्टिवल कितना इंपॉर्टेंट होता है और आम लोगों के लिए भी।
एक्चुअली काफ़ी सारी फिल्में जिनको सिर्फ फेस्टिवल में ही अच्छा ऑडियंस मिलता है, तो इसलिए फेस्टिवल्स बहुत ज़रूरी हैं। एक फ़िल्म की क्रेडिबिलिटी बनाने के लिए भी फेस्टिवल्स काफ़ी ज़रूरी हैं। और जागरण एक अच्छा फेस्टिवल है, अलग अलग शहरों में ट्रैवल करता है, अच्छे लोगों के साथ डिस्कशंस कराता है, तो मज़ेदार है। और कुछ
मुझे ये जानना है कि आपकी हॉलीवुड वाली जो फिल्म है उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा डिटेल, किस तरह का रोल होगा, क्या होगा?
आई थिंक वो एक इंटरनेट पे है, सेक्स ट्रैफिकिंग पे एक फ़िल्म है, चाइल्ड सेक्स ट्रैफिकिंग पे खासकर। तो वो इंडो यूएस को प्रोडक्शन है, उसमें कुछ हॉलीवुड के भी प्रोड्यूसर्स इन्वॉल्व हैं और एक बहुत ब्यूटीफुल सुंदर सी फिल्म बनी है।
कंप्लीट
जी कंप्लीट।
रिलीज़ का भी कुछ
नहीं, मुझे नहीं, अभी फ़िलहाल नहीं पता।
ठीक है। और कुछ भाई?
अपकमिंग प्रोजेक्ट्स क्या है?
कुछ नहीं, बस मैं तो घर पे बैठी हूँ।
सुनने में आता कुछ इंटरनेशनल, कुछ जापान के साथ हुआ था, वो आप कर रहे हो?
नहीं, वो एक फैशन फिल्म है, इट्स नॉट अ फिल्म, फैशन फिल्म। ओके, थैंक यू। थैंक यू।
Perhaps it's not worth paying them that amount, and you have to structure a film accordingly. Now, some studios perhaps took some kind of decisions that may have, and we've all gone wrong as boutique production houses like Dharma Productions or studios. There have been certain, I don't think well, I'll tell you, Yash Chopra once told me, films don't fail, budgets do. And it was, of course, a very powerful thought made by a veteran filmmaker. But very honestly, there was virtue and reality in what he said. That if you budget a film and you make sure that, if you have a film that does not warrant a certain price in a certain territory, you must not charge it. That kind of gumption you have to have as a filmmaker. I can proudly say that at Dharma Productions, we make sure that no studio has ever lost money with us. When I was with UTV and Ronnie and we released a film called Qurban that didn't do well, the immediate successor to that was a film called I Hate Love Stories, which actually we gave them at cost level so that they would make up the loss. Similarly, I've had incidents like that with Fox and with Eros when we've done 3 films internationally with them. It's very important, and that's something that I've been inherently trained to do by my father, is when you partner with the studio to make sure that it's not just, they're not a funding bank for you, that are just going to steamroll you and you don't do anything for them back in return. So yes, if certain studios are re-strategizing their way, there is reason, because the monies that you get out of just pure Hindi film exposure in terms of distribution is not what you are imagining it to be. Because you are empowered by certain verticals like satellite, But satellite buys certain kinds of films, because what works on Indian television sometimes necessarily does not equal box office success. Sometimes a film that may have failed at the box office rates tremendously on television.
A lot of us find baffling is that, you know, our movies are say like 100 crore, 200 crores is the kind of number we talk about. Whereas Hollywood would go into what the equivalent would be $1 billion club, which we're talking about, say, 6,000 crore. That's the kind of numbers we're dealing with compared to Hollywood and the Bombay film industry. But when you look at a Forbes list, for instance, and you'll find 3 movie stars from Bombay in it, in the top 10. So do you think at some level there is some problem there in terms of how much of that booty goes to one person rather than the film?
I don't think the revenues that most movie stars accrue are all to do with just the cinema they make. It's the peripheral avenues of that also come from the products they endorse, the shows they do, to the entrepreneurship that they have. Be Shah Rukh Khan, who is also an entrepreneur, you know, he owns a cricket team. He's always been exceptionally business savvy. So, you know, exceptionally, they're all businessmen as well. So they leverage their positions as movie stars and have taken it to various levels, which is intelligent and very forward, progressive moving of them. It's not always, very few actors really have just made a certain amount of wealth as a result of the movies they've done. There are always other avenues of income. So when they're on the Forbes list, it's not just the wealth they have amassed within the movie structure. It's out of it as well. Because what happens is the stardom is much larger than the money in your bank. It's like, you know, naam bada darshan chota. It's literally, people think that we all have enough wealth to put into Swiss banks. It's not true at all. It's a myth. You could be a brand in this country, but not necessarily match the bandwidth of that brand economically at all. You may actually have nothing compared to people who are lesser known. Sure. Because the movies have a tendency of making you seem larger than life. The very intelligent men and women in the business have actually invested well, have actually gone beyond the periphery of their fraternity and gone beyond it. And I think that's why they come into those lists, because the wealth is just not cinema, it's brand plus what they do with it.
Right.
Gone through their own ups and downs with their careers, you know, they always have. But they built an equity from a time that is very tough for the younger generation, because they built an equity in a time when footfalls were very high, where people knew them. So that generation went on to produce children who loved the same stars. And then the footfalls fell. So these younger generation movie actors do not have the pleasure or the privilege of those large numbers that these stars that were built in the 90s and the late 80s had. Shah Rukh Khan came up in 91, Amir Khan in 88, and as Salman, I think, in 89, with Maine Pyar Kiya. 88, 89, 91. They had a decade heads up of building an equity, which none of these actors today, those numbers have not been seen, the number of people. You are made a big star by the number of people worldwide that have seen your movies. The equity built through the films that Shah Rukh, Amir, Salman and Akshay have done, through these 2 decades, that number, none of these no matter what the hit number
is. Are you saying that
वो जब पॉपकॉर्न खाते हैं ना, तो पहला सीन ऐसा होना, फ्लैट होना चाहिए, कोई ज्यादा इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं देना चाहिए इंटरवल के बाद. How to write these things? How do you account for a buffer scene? What is a buffer scene? How do I explain to you as a mainstream critic that I wrote a buffer scene because you were eating popcorn? It's not my fault, you know. So these were the old school kind of theories, and I think that we are a unique country, because we stop our narrative and start it again. And now we do it to Hollywood films as well. I feel sorry for those Hollywood filmmakers if they ever saw their films at a PVR or at a fun, because they'll stop the movie wherever they want and then start it whenever they have to. You know, it's wonderful. Only we do that in our land.
So at some level,
like they're dead. They can't come back. They're all dead. We have to, at our ground level, make sure that we kind of, and I'm not saying we have to be progressive, as I said in content. It's all we need to do, Mayank. It's simple mathematics. Your budget has to keep in mind the genre of film and the extent at which it can do. It's a simple stroke of paper you write down. Your recoveries of music, overseas potential, India potential, which you must take an average recovery number, a satellite number, and now a digital number. Then spend accordingly, pay accordingly, put riders on payment. If you want a big star who loves your screenplay, should come along, just like the way it is in the West. You have to have, it has to be an inclusive exercise now. You have to sit down with a great script, go to good actors, and pretend they are not movie stars. Because today, every time you set up a project, it's going to fall flat on its face. If I overpay anyone who's not giving me the eyeballs, how am I going to make sure that the studio makes money? If I'm borrowing studio money, I bloody well make sure that the studio makes money. It's my job to do that. Otherwise, I will be wiped off and vanish. So when I have Fox money with me today, I have a wonderful deal with them. Every single day, I make sure that that I work towards them making money. It's only then that I will feel empowered. So the responsibility on the producer is tremendous, and he or she has to take that responsibility. We cannot look at studios as sheer banks that are steamrolling money for us, and we cannot be accountable. That is ridiculous. If I built a bungalow and they left their job, I should feel completely shitty about it. And